Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next partner spotlight. We have a special guest today. Her name is Mallory Moon, and she's a research assistant too at Children's Mercy. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Stay Active research study and at-home fitness program. So, Mallory, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about it, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for thinking of the Stay Active program to spotlight. We've been really excited to do this work in the community and tell people about it. So this is a great way for us to kind of give everybody an idea of what we've been doing in the Center for Children's Healthy Lifestyles and Nutrition with Dr. Carlson. So like Bryce mentioned, I am Mallory Moon. I work with Dr. Carlson, the Center for Children's Healthy Lifestyles and Nutrition, and the Active Kids Lab. My background is in public health. I've worked at Children's Mercy now for 5 years, and I started in the weight management department doing the Fit Kids program and doing activity leading for kids going through the weight management program. So I've recently transitioned to working with Dr. Carlson and the Active Kids Lab, and we kicked off kind of with this Stay Active study, which was perfect for me because I enjoy physical activity and engaging kids in being active in their everyday life.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of the key, isn't it? Being active in their everyday lives. And so I guess where did the idea come from amidst the pandemic?
Yeah, so we as a team had been talking about what the pandemic would do to kids when they started school. So we knew that everyday life looks different now. It looks different for everybody. It looks different for parents who are in the home with their kid if they're working from home. It looks different for teachers. It looks different for administrators. And it definitely looks different for kids that are trying to do school virtually. So Dr. Carlson kind of came up with this general idea of how can we support kids, teachers, and parents throughout the school semester in helping their child be physically active, or the children in their home be physically active. And what would that look like practically? So that's where the general idea came from, just because of how crazy COVID-19 has made life. We wanted to try and figure out a way to really, really help kids be active, but also like make it easy and fun and possible through their classroom.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this is all in the classroom, and this is to get kids up and moving throughout the day periodically?
Yeah. So I can take you back a little bit. So what we started with was this idea of engaging schools. So we needed to find districts in the Kansas City area that would be willing to take on what could be seen as an extra burden of trying to bring somebody into their virtual classroom when teachers are already doing a lot of work. So we found 2 school districts in the area that were willing and excited to have people come in and help support their teachers and their kids being active. And we were able to also get a donation from Garmin with 250 VivoFit 4s. We worked with a couple of partners throughout the hospital that made that happen, and we were so grateful to get those from Garmin. They've really done some great work, and we've been really excited to use them. The kids especially were really, really excited for that option of getting a Garmin to have their steps and their activities tracked. Mm-hmm. So from those 2 school districts, we partnered with 6 schools and 12 classrooms inside of those 6 schools. Okay. And we were able to talk with the teachers about what this meant for them and how we wanted to keep it as low burden as possible. So what that meant was we would establish a time twice a week with each of these classrooms to do 10 minutes of physical activity. which 10 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but when you are scheduled to a T with your virtual classrooms and trying to get kids engaged, 10 minutes can be quite a feat to try to get these teachers to agree to, and they made it work. They were gracious and amazing and very excited to get this going for their kiddos. So we did 10 minutes of different types of physical activity with them. The teacher set up the invite to have one of our team members come into their virtual classrooms, and our team would just join that meeting, lead 10 minutes of whatever physical activity was assigned for that day. We had different activities like kickboxing and yoga, and we had some videos that we got from like Go Noodle and kind of already established classroom-based physical activity programs. And we were just able to get the kids up and moving for those 10 minutes. And on top of the classroom-based physical activity piece of this pilot study, we had a family component. So for the kids that were in the 12 classrooms, we gave them the option. We gave them and their parents the option to receive the Garmin device. So when they received the Garmin device, essentially they were saying, yes, we will be a part of this pilot study, and we are willing to receive potentially extra study activities.
Gotcha.
So those 12 classrooms were randomized into two groups. Okay. And those two groups were the classroom-based physical activity only groups. So those kids, the kids in those classrooms only received either just the physical activity lesson that we gave twice a week, and potentially text messages if we weren't getting any information from their Garmin devices. So if our system showed that they hadn't been moving, if they had like 0 steps for several days in a row, our system would send out a text message that prompted the parent or the guardian to encourage their kid to get up and moving or sync their device. Gotcha. So sometimes that was the issue. Okay. The kid was moving, but the Garmin wasn't syncing to the phone. The family component, we established that these participants would receive weekly text messages that were positive reinforcements. So giving information to the parent on how many steps and how many minutes of physical activity their child had been doing for that week. We created badges. So those badges were just like little bursts of congratulations, you've walked the length of Antarctica, or, you've walked to the moon twice, if a kid reached those certain milestones. And then they also received weekly newsletters. Our team created these newsletters that gave general information on like healthy habits and setting goals, how to set goals, how to achieve goals, what activities they could do as a family, and how they could encourage the kids in their home to get up and get moving outside of the physical activity lessons that we provided. So that was a lot, but we had a lot of families really excited. So that big draw was the Garmin, right? So we could get kids really excited about receiving the Garmin. And then the physical activity lessons were just a hit. So we are now in the end stages of analyzing all of the data that came in through the Garmins and kind of wrapping up with teachers. We're no longer hosting physical activity lessons right now for this semester, for this 2021 spring semester.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just going to ask. Is there going to be anything available in the future for research like this? Because there's a lot of different components here. There's obviously an in-classroom physical activity component for these kids. They're getting text messages with healthy lifestyle recommendations and ways to get their families moving and eating more healthy. Is there going to be any other future research or any other programs like this?
So we're still trying to determine that. This was a pilot study, so it was small. There potentially could be an opportunity in the future if we are able to make this kind of a larger scale study. We are looking into that and what that means. It also kind of depends on what happens with the pandemic. Right. So we have no idea what schools could look like in 3 weeks, much less, the start of next semester after we've analyzed all of our data. So I think there are some opportunities to make this work even when schools return to normal. But we're still trying to figure all of that out.
Sure. And as you guys have been analyzing data, do you see any future implications or findings that you might get from this pilot set of data that might be able to, provide a little bit more guidance or recommendations while people are at home trying to be healthy?
So we're still looking at Garmin stuff. We've not fully analyzed the Garmin data yet, but from the teachers' perspectives, we've hosted interviews, and anecdotally, I can say that teachers were excited to have this in their classroom because it kind of took that burden away from them having to create a lesson that they are not necessarily as familiar with. So like trying to do physical activity when they are, an English teacher. They didn't go to school to be a PE teacher necessarily. So there are, I think, future opportunities to help support classroom teachers through this type of program because it was easy. We've found that coming into a virtual classroom was easy to get that extra resource for those teachers. So what that could look like when schools go back to normal is having somebody come in virtually to their class for 10 minutes where it's an easy transition. You don't have to have a live person come walk into their classroom and it's an easy cutoff. You're 10 minutes and then you can turn the live stream or the video off. So I think there are future opportunities for putting this into a normal classroom or a continued virtual classroom platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's definitely a lot of value in, having instruction that is almost face-to-face, but also just having it in real time. But for those that aren't able to access a resource like this, when you guys were kind of in the planning stage of this, trying to look for videos and exercises for your leaders to do with these kids in these classrooms, what were some good resources on where you found this stuff?
So some of the activities, the physical activities, came from existing Children's Mercy programs. So we were able to use some of the established routines that they had seen success with in weight management programs or I Am Healthy. So we were able to take some of those and just allow the physical activity leader to stick with kind of we had a checklist that the physical activity leader had to make sure that they had a warm up, they did the physical activity and they had a cool down, but they were able to make it their own, right? So they were able to ad lib, encourage the students. However, they learned that classroom needed to be encouraged. So that's a really good benefit, I think, of having that live kind of real-time person that you mentioned. As for the videos that we were using, we pulled from GoNoodle. We used YouTube. So YouTube is a great resource. We were able to also give teachers a list of search words that they could use inside of YouTube, because sometimes it can feel overwhelming. You don't know what to search. There's a lot of content out there. So we were able to give some search ideas and some actual video links that teachers could use in the future if they wanted to do physical activity outside of what we provided. So some of those are just like kids exercise or 8-minute burner or, things like that, things that got kids up and moving and use the whole body.
Yeah. It's definitely hard to find exercises and things that are tailored to age groups,
Right.
What people are interested in, and then I guess time and life demands of people while they're at home. So I think a good resource that you're also familiar with is going to be Fit-Tastic.org.
Yes.
And then you can go to the at-home resources where you can find some a good mode of organization for finding what maybe fits your family or your kids the best. So that's definitely a good resource for any teachers out there or parents that want to get involved and try to replicate something like this in the future. And Mallory, thanks for that great breakdown on the research study and the program. It sounds like an incredible, opportunity for all these kids, and hopefully there's going to be, it's going to take place on a larger scale in the future. That'd be great. I guess our last thing that we'll ask you is for people that are maybe jealous about a program like this, how they get to have specific instruction from a children's mercy person. What kind of recommendations for living healthy and following healthy lifestyles or staying active at home do you have for people out in the Kansas City community?
Well, a great resource, like you mentioned, is the 12345 Fit-Tastic website. So going to a website that has a bunch of different tools in one place is a great way to start, because there is a lot out there right now. There's a lot of information that lives on the internet on how to be healthy and how to do the right things. So going to a website like the Fit-Tastic website is a great way to start, because they can give you practical steps to help you not feel so overwhelmed. I think that is the most important part. I think right now we're all so inundated with content. It's important to go to the places that we know are trustworthy, and Children's Mercy and Weighing In and Fit-Tastic are those trustworthy sources that we can find information on how to be healthy and active at home during a time where it's just overwhelming, everything that we're experiencing. So starting at a place that's trustworthy is really important, and finding ways that work for you and that are sustainable ultimately.
That's great. Yep. I think that's a good key word to kind of end on, keeping things sustainable as we kind of progress through this pandemic. But Mallory, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Be sure to tune in for next month's Partner Spotlight. And until then, stay active, stay Fit-Tastic, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye.